Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 233. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 5th of the 6th of the 2023rd year. Yep, in Common Era, CE. And we're talking Trinidad and Tobago business. We're talking about a certain pew-pew. You know, our government recently spent, how much was it? Was it a couple million? I can't remember the exact figure, and I don't want to quote a wrong figure. Good night, Richard Glubman. Our government recently spent a significant amount of money, a couple million, to host a crime symposium for the entire Caribbean community. And after this crime symposium, the conclusion that was drawn is that in order to keep our country safe, we must ban assault rifles. Good night, Anika Bess. Good night. Yeah, boom, Australian kiss. Yeah, after that symposium, we had to ban these assault rifles. That was the important thing to be done. Now, a couple weeks later, what would you know? These very, very dangerous assault weapons that must be banned. Well, we could have banned it from coming in, but the regiment has some already, and it seems like they're walking away from the regiment's possession. A rifle goes missing. Trouble in Defense Force camp. Galil rifle goes missing at Tetron. Soldiers shoot up presidential vehicle. Extensive investigations are now ongoing into two major incidents involving Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force members within weeks of each other. In the latest incident, a Galil assault rifle assigned to an officer disappeared from Tetron Barracks in Chaguaramas, which is now on lockdown, while the TNT Police Service also investigates the matter. In the previous incident, back in April, soldiers assigned to President's house were transferred after they shot up a presidential vehicle and tried to cover it up. During a joint media conference at the Ministry of National Security in Port of Spain yesterday, Acting Commanding Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Ashok Singh, said at about 12:30 a.m. yesterday, a senior officer on duty was alerted by a TTDF member who was on duty and had the rifle assigned to him that the weapon had gone missing. The orderly officer immediately conducted the standard operating procedures for such incidents and immediately confined Tetron Barracks, and it remains confined at this point in time as we continue the investigations. He also disclosed that an official report was made with the TTPS. Last evening, the TTPS also offered $75,000 reward to anyone who can provide information that will lead to the arrest and prosecution of the persons responsible. Says they will get it back. It's not the first time it has happened. Z-Grade says when rounds leave the armory for range, they don't come back. They have a mandate to shoot out all that leaves. There are rounds that are put aside for range exercises. What is left or what a soldier can get his hands on, they pocket them. Well, that sounds like an obvious loophole, and I don't think, you see, here's the thing. Any officer who's a senior officer would have gone through the ranks and recognized these same loopholes. So if there's such a loophole, that would be something known by the seniors. I don't think such loopholes exist without the seniors knowing. So the assumption has to be that they know, they are aware, and they want it that way. And reality is, if you really wanted to find out who was doing that, it wouldn't be that difficult. Aaron Salvatore says, I come here for my daily dose of facts and authentic chats. Appreciated. White Leather says, I'm wondering how they handle their petty cash. Yikes. Mr. Says facts have a few scumbags in TTDF. You know, here's the thing. Well, I think with the TTDF it may be a little different from the police service, but part of my quandary in some of this is when you see things like there are a few scum inside of the TTDF, I wonder, okay, there might be, let's say, less than 1% of the defense force who is actually actively committing the crimes. But how much of the defense force would be aware of that 1%? How much would be aware of that 1%? And okay, yes, the 1% is scum, but if you are aware and you allow them to continue doing their scummish behavior, what does that make you? Yes, I'm aware. It includes the whole range. It wasn't just that. Chief of Defense for Defense Staff Air Vice Marshal Daryl Daniel, who was also at the conference, said the incident was very disturbing, but assured all efforts will be put in place to address the issue, telling the public to be guided that the decisions, the recommendations, and the requests made by the Defense Force are in place to prevent such incidents from occurring. In relation to the missing TTDF weapon, the Trinidad and the TTPS, DCP Investigations and Intelligence, Kurt Simon said the police will leave no stone unturned in this matter. Okay. The solution is simple, Z-Grade says. I don't doubt. No switching policy exists there also. No snitching, no snitching policy exists there. And again, if no snitching policy exists, I don't think that is by coincidence. Establish a group who checks soldiers after ranges. Z-Grade, I am sure they know this. 100% they know this. And that's why you have to at some point in time recognize that some of these things aren't mistakes. Some of these things aren't mistakes. Someone is allowing some of these things to happen. I mean, people can't be that blind and that ignorant at the same time. Make an example of those who... Yes, you could do that if you were interested in cleaning them up. During the question and answer segment, Guardian Media also asked about the April incident at the President's House, St. Anne's. Guardian Media was told that in that incident, 3 TTDF members, 2 Lance Corporals and a private were transferred following an alleged incident where one of the vehicles belonging to the presidential fleet, a blue panel van, was shot up from the inside. It is believed that the vehicle perhaps may have left the compound, during which maybe one of the soldiers were playing with his gun and it went off and shot the vehicle from inside, and when the vehicle was brought back onto the president's compound, they tried to fix it. A source close to the matter revealed, listen, I find that whole story sounds exceedingly suspicious. Exceedingly suspicious. A state vehicle goes out on a rendezvous, at least one bullet hole. They use the word shot up, but then the way they frame it, it sounds like one shot fired off. But who knows, at minimum one bullet hole was found on the inside of the state vehicle. The inside of the vehicle. And they tried, listen, if I was a conspiratorial minded kind of person, I was thinking somebody put down a crime inside of that vehicle and used the state resources to cover it all back up. Like, bro, what you mean a state vehicle had gun holes inside it and they tried to... What? And the men were transferred. Is that great? I don't doubt that. It have men who joining TTDF specifically for passive investment coming there just to learn how to use the guns. They take this info back to gunmen, conduct classes, etc. Have 6 and 7 men inside there. I don't doubt that at all. I remember a while back, not only a while back, very often when you hear sometimes about men involved in underworld activities, very regularly you hear a former soldier here, a former soldier there. It is widely known and reputed in Trinidad and Tobago that many men involved in underworld activities are, if not current, former Defense Force members. That's a known thing. That's a very known thing. In fact, when you talk to many of the young men who frequent the block, like some of the youth men who are on the block, they haven't really took that further step yet. They're just holding up the corner as the corner needs some help being held up. They're just there wasting time, and you ask them what they want to do. A lot of them talk about joining the defense force. Good night, Sylvan Trinidad. Plus, them soldiers bored, so they're doing crime for excitement to test the training. Like, bro, if you bored and your solution to boredom is crime, sir, you're a criminal. That's not boredom. You're a criminal. Like, if you're bored, play a game, bro. Go join chess. Go in the gym. Get big and buff. Like, you bored and you're going to commit crime? Nah, no. Z-Grade says, remember there was a known gunman who was buried in full camo. Yup. I remember that. I do. And someone I believe was arrested for supplying the full camo. If I remember correctly, someone, if not arrested, someone was, they had someone under suspicion and they were speaking to them concerning that, supplying the full kit of camo. Have bandits would have liked to be soldiers, correct? Yes, Denicia John, I don't want to get into the specifics, but I remember that very, very distinctly. A Big Dan, trained to kill, trained and no one to kill legally. What about all them SD men? Mohan Bastio says, don't let the one bad apple spoil the entire box, bro. Respect. I agree. Don't let it spoil the entire box. But I think in such cases, the prerogative is on the box. If you know you're in a box and you know there are bad apples in the box, well, bad apples spoil the box. You have to kick out the bad apple. As a fellow apple, you have to make sure your box has no bad apples. Some of them actually make it through the training and can't leave their lifestyle behind. Well, for some people it's difficult. And you know, I find it interesting that there's obviously so much wiggle room for criminal activity in our defense force. People who handle guns and ammunition, that are supplied by the state. That's where a lot of criminal wiggle room happens. And it seems like so much attention is not focused there. Coleman Corp says a lot of young criminals join the defense force to get training on the dime of the government with intentions to come out well prepared for crime and to have access to arms and ammunition. Yes, that's what someone was saying here. But yeah, long time TTF was most respectful in a stop and search. Now some worse than police behavior. Yeah, I find it strange that with this being the obvious reality in Trinidad and Tobago, the TTDF has loopholes, gaping loopholes that everyone knows of, that it helps with crime. And not that much focus is placed there. The focus is placed on the legal firearms. And I find this very strange. Now, there's a legal case that is being heard now that I think may have some future ramifications on how these firearms licenses are going to go on going forward. We're seeing our court system getting utilized more and more in fighting against the government. Yes, Shiesty, in fighting against the government, our court system is being utilized more and more in working out, and really and truly the intention of a court system is to work that way also, that the citizens have a redress against the government with the court system. And I see more and more citizens doing this. And even with this firearm user license business, this may be very interesting going forward. Attorney sues Top Cop over FUL application. An attorney from South Trinidad who applied for a firearm user's license has been granted leave by a High Court judge to challenge the police commissioner's failure to make a decision on her application. Justice Betsy Ann Lambert Peterson granted permission to the 37-year-old attorney who is seeking declarations that she is entitled a decision on an FUL application and has been treated unfairly. The attorney has asked for her identity to remain protected because of the crime situation and her job, which she said prompted her to apply for the gun license. She also wants the court to order the commissioner to make a decision 7 days after it gives a decision. The lawsuit comes up for hearing on June 14th. Let's hear the details of this case. In May 2020, she said she received a provisional license which enabled her to get training for the use of a firearm, after which she applied for an FUL in August of 2021. So she got her provisional license, she took a year in training, applied for a FUL. She said she emailed the police's firearms permit unit several times to get an update on her application and visited in person on July 6, 2022. She continued to seek a response up to November 2022, but has not been told when the commissioner will make a decision on her application. Her attorneys also sent several letters to the commissioner and the Chief State Solicitor's Department of the Office of the Attorney General. She also said she applied for the FUL for her safety and that of her family. Her claim contends that the commissioner is guilty of unreasonable delay since almost 2 years have elapsed since she applied. Interesting. Some interesting chats going on in the chat there. But yes, I find this very interesting. And it may be the right direction to go. Nathan, I believe everyone should have access to a firearm as long as they have no convictions. I don't mind that idea. And maybe some of these court cases would make this clearer. To me, I would want our courts to declare that the process shouldn't be so murky. Like to me, let people know what the qualifications are. What does someone need to have in order to qualify for this firearm? If I need X, let me know I need X, so that's what I need. If I cannot qualify because of Y, let me know that. But to me, this kind of murky business where it's totally up to the commissioner and they don't even need to reply, that doesn't sound like fair legal precedent. That doesn't sound like a fair legal system to me. Legal systems, you want it to be clearly understandable to the public. Okay, these people can qualify for this privilege because of this reason. You cannot qualify for this privilege because of this reason. White Leather says the prerequisite is 50K in an envelope. Well, according to our present government, they are seeking to clean up that firearm user licensing department. So, no. What are you talking about? Bribes? Of course not. Sylvan, you don't want to go down that argument. The US is a massive country. Look at, and they run by federal law. Federal law meaning the states make their laws. Look at the states that have the loosest gun control laws. Those arguments don't stand up. The argument that anytime you talk about legal firearm ownership, you want us to be like the states, you want us to be like the states, look how they're dying in the states. No. Sir, our crime rate is higher. Way higher than them. If you look for an area in the states where nearly every citizen owns a gun, our crime rate is probably 100% higher than that. And we have bans on guns here. So I don't think it works out like that. It does not work out like that. So no, as I've said before on this topic, I am not saying that you just bring container loads of weapons and offload them on every Trinidad and Tobago citizen. That's not what I'm saying. I am even starting this off. Both Richard Glubman, both the murder rate and the crime rate. You could look at both of them. Both of them, and they would tell the same story. What I'm starting this off even from the point of this legal case that is going on now. At least allow citizens to know what is what. Let them know the clear criteria for this. If it is that they cannot be qualified until they do 3 years training, at least let that be known. You know, you need 3 years training and then you come. But as it is, it's just too obscure and murky. And when things are obscure and murky, what it actually effectively ends up being is just a privilege for the wealthy. So if you are connected and wealthy enough, you'd get through that, no problem. If you are not connected enough, well, you don't even know if you don't get through. Like Chicago, Sylvan, exactly like Chicago. Go read Chicago has more strict gun control laws than Trinidad and Tobago. Did you know that? Chicago has stricter gun control laws than Trinidad and Tobago. There is very low legal gun ownership in Chicago. Those boys who are killing each other at an amazing rate, and I think Chicago lost the high spot. I think it's Baltimore. Baltimore is really high, and St. Louis, Missouri, I think. Even with the Second Amendment, yes, because that's what I was saying. They have a federal system where states can make their own laws. So there are some states, and they recently had a Supreme Court ruling to knock down some of this. Some states have a may issue license. Their law is written that they may issue a license if you request it. May issue means it's up to the prerogative of the state. So they don't have to give you a license, and you need a license for a firearm. Now, some states have what they call constitutional carry, where you literally need nothing and you can carry a weapon. So it varies widely. Yeah, that was the Chirac comment these, Mr. The Chirac comment these. But again, returning to this story, I don't think we need a Second Amendment even yet. Let's start from this legal case. Give the citizens a clear pathway. Okay, if you want this for self-defense, this is what you need. Kaliman Corp, that might be true, but crossing state boundaries with a firearm is breaking a law. The point is, criminals don't care about laws. It's the same thing like in Trinidad. To say that it's because America has no borders, it's like the same thing in Trinidad. We have borders, but guns come in still. The problem is there isn't the ability to stop bad people from doing bad things. Like, I was recently looking at a group in the United States. They're begging for a governor in, is it Arizona, begging for the governor to issue by executive order, as it were, a decree from the government to ban all guns and buy back all guns. Like, listen, if it was possible in Trinidad for Dr. Rowley to come out tomorrow and say by midnight tonight there will be no more guns in Trinidad, you know, I'll be fine with that, you know. I'll be fine. The problem is, when you say by midnight tonight there'll be no more guns in Trinidad, what that means is by midnight tonight there'll be no more guns for the law-abiding citizens. Because laws are for the law keepers. The criminals don't care. No government on either side of the aisle want the population armed. That's what we need to change in Trinidad and Tobago, I suppose you're talking about here. And that's difficult. That is. Nathan, what happened to Brent Thomas? He took back his gun? I do not know. I do not know where the case is yet. I believe according to the court, they required that the police return his property. So I suppose they'll have that. The Chinese army is still unarmed. That's not true. If you're talking about the Chinese army on the border with It's the border with India or some one of those it's some kind of weird thing where there's a border conflict where both armies they sign some treaty where both armies cannot have guns, so they just beat each other with sticks. Let me see if I find that. I like dead serious. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And to me, that's kind of the real ridiculous nature of governance and how governance could treat these small people like idiots. Is it India? I think it could be India and China border with their borders. See if I can find that. India and Chinese troops fight with sticks and bricks. Just saying Trinidad is a lawless society, so yep. Z-Grade says tint exemptions, FUL, PBR passes are all playthings of the politicians and privileged. I agree. How many people in Trinidad are really law-abiding citizens though? Just saying Trinidad is a lawless society. So, I mean, you know, I kinda disagree with you. I kinda disagree with you, Little Miss Mediator. I think Trinidad is a bureaucratic society. And because Trinidad, this goes back to a piece allow me a little rant here. A piece I saw an Africa lady, I spoke about this before, a business lady speaking about the difficulties in Africa and why Africa is the way it is. And people were talking about Africa needs help and they need donations. And she was saying that the problem in some cases is some of those donations. So like she drew the example of Tom's shoe. I had a Tom's in my time, so I'm not knocking the Tom's owners. But Tom's where you buy one and they give one. And she was saying that's a horrible thing. It actually cuts off the legs of the business people in the community. What Africa needs is the free market. Africa needs to return to its roots of free market and trading among tribes, etc. And her problem was that she said Africa as a majority took up a Marxist leftist socialist view after they got their freedom from the colonialists, because the Europeans were by and large capitalists, so they took it as default the bad guys are capitalists, so that means the good guys must be the other side. So they took up a lot of left-wing policies, and Africa has a lot of those left-wing policies which creates massive governments, massive bureaucracies, and makes it nearly impossible to get things done. Sounds familiar? Much like a lot of the Caribbean too. We took up so many left-wing policies where the government is a massive entity. In most Caribbean and African countries, the government is the biggest thing in the country. And because of that, it's actually difficult to get business done. The bureaucracy becomes impossible. It becomes stagnant to get business done. And what that causes is not that people don't do business, it's that people do business corruptly. You see, laws don't change people's behavior. Laws make some people criminals and some people not. So if you pass a law that no Trini is to eat doubles, you're not going to stop all Trinis from eating doubles. You're going to make some Trinis into criminals. So that's a lot of the problem in our society. It's not that our society is a lawless society. I think our society is a society plagued by bureaucracy. So our citizens have become experts at finding the shortcut, doing the way around it, because that's how everything is done here. You have to find the way around it. If you go according to the letter of the law, you would never get it done. Never, never, ever. You have to call your friend so that your friend would give you the link to actually get the thing done. Otherwise you'll be here doing the same thing for 5 years. So you train your population into being tricky daddians. Trinidadians have to be tricky daddians because you know you need to pull an envelope around the bottom of your pants to go inside of the licensing office to pick up your license that is already printed. You know that. You know that. You know that the tint, for years now, the tint wasn't really a matter of if it's too dark over a certain level. It's whether the police say so or not. So you know when the police call about your tint, you could just pass a little something and you go your way. You know that in this country, we have police officers that will go into the rural parts of the country, see a farmer with buckets a mistblower and coconut shoots and attempt to give him a ticket for unsecured load. We know that. And we know that as a country, we have a set of colonial-minded, backward people that will say, you see, we too lawless. Yeah, give him a ticket. That's what he need. Idiocy. Idiocy. That's not about lawlessness. It's that we created a bureaucratic nightmare that makes it hard for things to get done. Brother, who writes the laws? Well, a lot of our laws were inherited. And just by the way, I am not saying that this is some punishment from the colonialists. If you listen to what I'm saying that in the case of Africa and a lot of the Caribbean countries, we took up that communist left-wing thing all on our own. Massimo says, true, in fact, Grenada was actually a communist country for a little while in the 80s. Kaliman says, if any of your parents work WASA, TNTEC licensing office, the airport, customs, etc., you grew up in a household that know about smart man activities. Correct. Correct. I heard about through the grapevine. Just a talk through the grapevine. In the early 2000s, when the airport changed laws, you know, you could no longer carry the liquids. You can't carry the liquids. So overnight, people just became criminals. Some airport big boy went home with bottles, spun bottles. You understand? So it's not that we have a lawless society. To me, it's that we have a bureaucratic society with citizens who are trained and skilled in maneuvering their way around bureaucracy. That's just the reality. And I am not 100% certain how something like that changes. Part of it, the major part of it to me, is cultural. As I see, if ever you've listened to me long enough, you'd have heard me say that. It's cultural. The main issue is cultural. We need a culture that changes from the law is the law. No. You see, we need to change our attitude from us being sojourners in Trinidad and Tobago, us being brought here from a foreign place and brought into some other person's project. No, this isn't the British people's project. This isn't the European colonialist project. This is our project. So the law isn't the law. The law is what we want the law to be. So if you see a farmer being persecuted for nonsense, you don't go on saying the law is the law, what you go do. You say this is nonsense. You want that police officer must feel ashamed. When his name is made public, he must feel ashamed to walk in public after doing things like that. Little Miss Mediator says, so if you're going down that road, you can say the same for gangs and the ghetto boys trying to survive. In what way? In what way? The lawlessness. Citizens need to get more involved in the lawmaking process. I don't disagree with that. If you're talking about the lawlessness, saying that bureaucracy is the same as the gangs, I think that is not a solid argument. Listen to this. Is there a difference between violence perpetrated on another person and not violence? That's all. Is there a difference? You see, I think, to me, our moral structure, our culture, must come from something that sits beneath the Constitution, sits beneath written laws. And in my view of that, there's a difference between what a gangster does, which is violence, and circumventing a law. For me, my morality is I obey the laws even if they are ridiculous. That's my morality, because I think that's the way that we'll work along and get them changed better. But I am not going to stand here and try and make an equivalent argument between bureaucratic laws and workarounds and gangs. Now, as a country, what you need to understand is by creating those bureaucratic workarounds, creating the need for those bureaucratic workarounds, you create the space for gangs. So it's not a coincidence that just like Trinidad and Tobago, those African countries with excessive bureaucracy, with excessive corruption, also have the excessive violence that comes from the gangs. I am not denying that. And yes, there's a link. I'm not saying it's the same though. Morals can be subjective. All criminals had codes they lived by too. Yeah, morals can always be subjective, but I do not believe morals are subjective. I think if anyone holds that view, we cannot retain a society. Did we address? No, we did not address that, Cully, man. We did not. And I'm not sure what you want me to address in that necessarily. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think people don't understand with this. When you say that we have a lawless society because of the bureaucracy that we create in our society, if you think that the solution is somehow forcing people to obey the bureaucratic system we have, I think that's a fool's dream, because there has never been a country that has created that bureaucratic system and succeeded with it. What my point is, by bringing up the gang, it's kind of reinforcing the point I'm making. I'm saying that the bureaucratic system we created the need for a loophole system, and the loophole system created the ability for the gangs. Yes, Little Miss Mediator, we are as a society supposed to decide the laws. But if we decide a ridiculous set of unsustainable laws, our society is going to crumble over time. And that's the point I am making. I am saying that our system is too bureaucratic. And because of the bureaucracy that we have created a need for creating loopholes. And okay, if you think that you could stop the loopholes and force everyone to run through the mill of the bureaucracy, good luck with that. What I am saying is that we should be looking at human nature and trying to mirror what works with human nature. Forcing humans to work with bureaucracy creates loophole culture. Loophole culture feeds corruption. Corruption allows criminality in general. So that's the point I am making on the gangs and lawlessness and all of that. They're all feeding into each other. So I am the solution point is where we're butting heads at here. You're saying that we are lawless and that's what causes the gangs. I am saying that the step is before that lawlessness. The step is the system that created this that led to that. I hope you understand the difference I'm making here. So what we need to solve isn't the lawlessness, because it is impossible to solve. It is not going to be solved. Listen, you are not going to get Trinidadian businessmen to stop paying the bribes on the port to let their business run smoother. It is not going to happen. It is not. So the secret there is to change the bureaucratic system on the ports so that they don't need to pay the bribes. Because once there is the bureaucratic system, they will pay the bribes. What system do you suggest? I suggest we lean much more into the free market if you're talking about system. But as I've said countless times, the solution isn't systemic, because we cannot sit here and say, okay, well, I want more free market, less government involvement, less public servants. I can't sit here and snap my fingers and make those things happen. What I can sit here and do is hopefully reason with a lot of Trinidadians so that when a majority of them go out seeking what decisions they want, they can make decisions with a more solid mind. So what country port should we model? The port was an example, Richard Glubman. The port was a singular example. Anytime we seriously clamp down on our ports and stop drug flow, we will fold up as a country. Ha ha ha. White Leather says certain surnames imports have their own designated customs officers. White Leather, they are businessmen that I may or may not have heard of or spoken to that have line items in their accounting book that refers to, what was the word he had for it? What was the word he had for it? Making the system run or something like that. A line item in his accounting book. The bureaucracy we have was designed by colonialists to foster corruption. I don't disagree with you, militant rockstar. Isn't that the same procedure to change the law? You see, Sylvan, changing the law isn't just what we need, because what law are we going to change it to? We have a lot of people that clamor for constitutional reform, and they listen to people that are talking about reforming our constitution into making it more Marxist, into making it more communist, into giving the government more power. So my aim is, let's pull back from the full constitutional reform and marching on the road and demanding change. Let's discuss and understand where our problems are at first. Let's see, okay, is it that the Trinidadians are genetically predisposed to corruption more than any other group of people in the world? Or is it that certain situational realities create a corrupt society around us? Okay, if we realize our situational realities, all right, well, maybe we could help deal with some of that. What part do I play in some of these realities that exist around us? Can I make a change in that? Give the people the power and leaving it the way it is what fosters corruption. What country laws should we model? I would like to know the ideal country. I don't think there's an ideal country. If you're asking closer to ideal laws, I will look at some of the freer states in the United States. If you'd ask me, some of the freer states in the United States, I'll be much more okay with that. And as I keep regularly saying with the system arguments, I believe the British do not necessarily have a bad system. I just think the British system wasn't made for Trinidad and Tobago. If Trinidad and Tobago could have functioned where each community votes for a person to represent them, and that independent maybe person is their member of parliament, and the majority of those members of parliament select one amongst themselves who they could support the most, and that person that they support the most becomes the chief minister, and that person selects a cabinet to work with them. That's a splendid idea in principle. The political system isn't a bad idea. The problem is 15, 16 safe seats. I regularly say this. If you're a UNC supporter, you mightn't like this part. The problem in Trinidad and Tobago with the parliamentary system we have is the UNC. The UNC has 15 to 16 safe seats that they will never lose. And because of that, the entire working of the system is hiccuped. And I know some supporters of the UNC will try to say the PNM has the same, but that is not true. The PNM has lost basically every seat except for one of the Laventils. They have never lost. Every other one they lost. Look at Tobago and you see the example of how it would work if it didn't have that. Yes, the PNM has that by default. Yes, they have the default. But even the PNM supporters, they generally leave. The problem is the UNC has 15 to 16 safe seats that they cannot lose. So if you want to be a third party jumping in there, you have to join the UNC. You have to join the UNC. That's the only way. Neil Mohammed said we vote for one person for PM and he select whoever he want. If they fail, we vote them out. Neil Mohammed, that's the issue. That's the issue right there. That's not what we do. That's not our legal system. Positive radiation, don't argue me on this. Don't argue me on this. That's not our legal system, Neil Mohammed. We don't vote for a prime minister. When you go and vote in elections, you don't vote for a prime minister. You vote for a member of parliament. And that's what it's supposed to be. If I'm living in Couva North, which I am, when I vote for my member of parliament in Couva North, that person is supposed to represent the views of the people of Couva North. The problem we have right now is when I vote for my representative for Couva North, he lets me know from the jump he represents the view of the UNC. So I cannot vote for someone to represent my view in parliament. Isn't the executive president that Patrick Manning wanted that same thing? Not really. You vote directly for an executive president. Heinz holding that seat for over 20 years can't clean here, but people want him to clean up the country. Lol. Lol. Funny stuff. And I hope everyone in the chat understands the argument that I'm making here, the point that I'm making. I am not saying here that PNM is better than UNC. That's not the point that I'm making. You could say what you want in that realm. That's not the point. I'm saying that the nature of Trinidad's politics is the parliamentary system that we have from the British cannot work here because there are 16 safe seats that always go to one party. If our system genuinely worked as the member of parliament represented his constituency and made decisions based on what his constituents wanted, this system would not have been that bad. So that's why I speak so regularly about culture. I speak so regularly about culture. If, and this may be a fool's dream, but if, for example, this is a prime example, the UNC had in Couva North Ramona Ramdial. She was the representative for Couva North for quite some time. And the constituents of Couva North seemed by and large to like her. For some reason, she fell out of graces with Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And in the 2015, was it? Or was it the 2020 election? They removed her. The constituents at the constituency office protested that. They were like, we don't want her to move. Please bring back this lady. This is the one we selected. The voters of this constituency chose her. Bring her back. Tantikam says, whatever, takes up someone of her own choosing and puts them there. The reason she could do that is because she understands you could put a crapo there and you'd vote for them based on party. I wish somehow it could have changed like that. Like, you see what Jack did with Shogunus West? If what Jack did with Shogunus West was able to be replicated all around the country, where in any constituency, and this isn't just UNC or PNM, any constituency, the personality could rise above the party, where a constituency would be like, okay, this person represents us best. We don't care who yellow, red, whatever decides to put here. This person is our best representative. If we could reach that point, so much would change. Just by that, so much would change. But you see, as it is right now, when people complain about the dictatorial prime minister and the prime minister has too much power in our system, it's because the prime minister isn't supposed to have that much power. If you look in the United Kingdom, because that's where we took our system from, their prime minister is an old dog. Their prime minister always fighting for his position. He always holding on to that position by the scruff. Always. Why? Because the MPs always know we have the balance of power. We could always move around and kick out this prime minister and bring in another one. We could wheel and deal. Yeah, I know that happened in Arima, Curve and Henry. But in Arima, that's a bit interesting. And the guy was PNM, went UNC and came back PNM. I mean, I just find some of those flip-flops to be a bit interesting because those two parties, like, PNM says the worst thing for Trinidad is UNC. UNC says the worst thing for Trinidad is PNM. How could I be PNM and then go to UNC in the same year? Like, something doesn't seem right to me. How many representatives is working like Jack Warner? Again, Navin, very good point. But here's part of the reason, Navin. They don't need to. You see, you understand in Trinidad politics, I don't need to work for my constituency. I need to be loyal to the leader of my party. You see, if I wanted to join the UNC, I know what I need to do is I don't need to go in Couva North, Couva South, any one of those constituencies and go and rail work. No. I need to go to the UNC and try to become the best friends with Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. And when I do that, I know she will just place me in a safe seat and the seat is mine. And then we wonder how come the political leaders and the prime minister get so much power. Because that's the system we created. We created a system where you have to be beholden to the leader. What did Jack do for them? Jack did a lot. Jack did a lot. Jack paved roads. Jack built drains. Jack cut savanna grass. Listen, Jack cut savanna grass all in Couva North. I do not live in Shogunas West. And there were green tractors with big signs on top of them. I forgot what the sign said. Something by ILP Jack Warner something. So you knew who the tractor came from. That were cutting the grass in my community. That was cutting the grass in my community. So, yeah. Like, I have my arguments with Jack, and I don't think Jack is the solution to the country. And I think, let me leave it there. But you can't deny that Action Jack got the name Action Jack because he did some action. Jack served the people, a model I thought some politicians here would have learned from. Jack was at his office at 5 a.m. every morning listening to people and getting work done. Yeah. I don't deny that he did that. I don't deny that. Listen, for some people who misunderstand Trump, think about this. I think, and I've said it before, Jack Warner is the closest thing in Trinidad we have to Donald Trump. If anybody ever misunderstood Trump and have no idea how people could vote for that orange madman, think about it like that. Jack Warner is the closest we have to Donald Trump here in Trinidad and Tobago. That's the way I will put that. That's the way I will put that. And many people see him like that. Kevin Henry, you could join in the guest area, but we're leaving just now. We're leaving just now. So tomorrow you could join and we'd talk. I suspect FIFA money spent to better Trinidad. Yes, I suspect too. Neil Mohammed said Trump is the only politician who did everything he said he will do during campaign. I don't know about everything, but he certainly made it seem that way, and he seemed like he was trying to do it. And to me, that's a businessman strategy. And I don't know where all of your views might be on Trump or Jack Warner, etc. But I do think that the time for having politicians and lawyers running the country, I'm kind of fed up of that. I think we need a management specialist, a businessman, someone to actually do that kind of stuff. And I think that might be some of what many people wanted from Donald Trump. What's not true, Kevin Henry? You know what? You seem very excited to have a bit of a conversation there. Let's briefly talk before I dive out. Where I don't see you there, Kevin Henry, to even invite you. You could try invite yourself to be a guest. Imbert isn't a businessman primarily. I believe Imbert primarily is an engineer or something like that, isn't it? I heard that, Opine Designs. I heard that. I think we need a younger leader, not a pensioner. I agree. I want a single mother as Minister of Finance. I understand why you would say that. Imbert is a pragmatist. I would say Imbert is an elitist. That's the way I would phrase that. I think the PNM in general is an elitist party, and I think Mr. Imbert best embodies the PNM's view that they could, through committee and experts, they could find out the best way to run Trinidad and Tobago better than anyone else can. They could figure out and make decisions for the entirety of Trinidad and Tobago that would allow Trinidad and Tobago to run the best it could. That's a kind of elitist view. I am the elite. We are supposed to be in this position making these decisions. We know how to do this, and we will make the decisions on your behalf. And just so you know, the populist Jack Warner, Trump, Watson Duke types are in exact opposition to those types. Populism and that elitism, for lack of a better term, kind of work against each other. We have too much out-of-touch politicians. I agree. And those out-of-touch politicians, and many people don't understand that. Many people were so, if you had a jersey with Barack Obama on it or a picture of Obama in your house, you will not understand these things because you were caught up in the Obama fever. You think Obama did nothing bad too. Many people don't understand that out-of-touch politician attitude is what allowed the United States to vote for a crazy 70-year-old billionaire with orange hair and orange skin. People were fed up of that kind of out-of-touch politician feel. And we have that in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think it's growing. And the PNM has the disadvantage of, I think, having the majority of at least the majority of obviously out-of-touch politicians. Obviously. Now, I'm not saying the UNC doesn't have them, but the PNM seems to have them most obvious. Like, to call some names, I find when I hear Mr. Imbert speak, he sounds out of touch. Mr. Imbert was the one who spoke about the citizens wanting too many big engine vehicles. So that's why they're raising some taxes on vehicles over a certain cc. A month after he bought a Mustang on his minister special business, his minister tax waiver. Come on, ease me up. Ease me up. That man sounds out of touch. Minister Hines. How often does Minister Hines speak and you feel comforted like, I think this man understands what I'm going through? Some out of touch people, some very out of touch people. And even Dr. Rowley himself, like, he has the down to earth, at least the beginning story of the down to earth feel. That feeling, you know, you start from Mason Hall in Tobago, and you know, a man of the soil, and you have his goat farm and all of that. But then you recognize he's living in Goodwood Park, and he has been living in Goodwood Park for the better part of what, 40 plus years? And when you hear Dr. Rowley speak and you know about his golf, and I'm going to enjoy my session at golf, and you enjoy your golf, sir, but you understand it has an out of touch feel. It really does have that out of touch feel. Lotus says, no, they don't care about Alia. I have no misconceptions about who cares about me. Wide Leather says Heinz Palace in Hillsborough is beautiful. I've never seen it. I've never seen his mansion, so I wouldn't know. When you're in Bago, drive past the Sheep Hotel. I don't even know where that is. All of these people's personal residences and place. I don't know. I don't know where it is. You know what? Next time I'm in Bago, I feel I'd have to hit you up positive, and you'd have to show me where this Sheep Hotel, is. I don't know. But yeah, that's some out of touch stuff. And people don't like having out of touch rulers. The most revolutions in the world were kicked off most of the times because of the out of touch rulers. Like people would stay through starvation. Kevin Henry, rest me. You're not making sense. Because people would live through starvation if they feel like we're all doing it together. People will do that. But if people are starving and they hear the Queen telling them, well, if they're starving, let them eat cake, they start pulling out the guillotines. I don't know how many of you get the reference. I'm glad for you, Kevin Henry. I'm glad for you. Good for your golf in Pleasantville. Yeah, if you hear that you're starving and the Queen in her overlaid in pearls is saying let them eat cake, the guillotines start coming out. Brother, I wish I was treated the same way the PM sheep. Yes, Sylvan, Trinidad, France, exactly. And you know, I've read a good bit on the French Revolution, and when you read about what was her name, the name always slips me, Marie Antoinette. When you read about Marie Antoinette, there are some accounts that, you know, she may not have been necessarily that bad of a person. She was a queen of the day. As far as queens of the day go, she was as queen as it comes. Her mother was a queen in a neighboring country. She came from a royal lineage, so she never knew life as a commoner. So she was a queen. She lived as a queen. You know, she wore expensive clothing as queens did. She gave to the poor as some queens did. She gave some. But when things start to get hard and people start recognizing that you don't understand. Kashif Campbell says, for argument's sake, is it that successful people should not be a part of public service? No. And this is the point I was making, Kashif Campbell. And this is the point that some people, I suppose, like Kevin Henry, isn't understanding. Listen to this and tell me if you're understanding something in this. People believed that Obama was elitist, but Donald Trump, who was a billionaire and grew up in New York, the son of a millionaire, somehow they believed that he was more in touch with the people. Okay, that's one. Look at this again. Dr. Rowley, the son of common Tobago folk. He may be wealthy. He has had many years at the height of his employment level, so he may be relatively wealthy. But I have no doubt that Jack Warner would monetarily be wealthier than Dr. Rowley. Yet, Trinidadians would believe that Jack Warner is more in touch with the common man than Dr. Rowley. You see, the ideas of populism versus elitism isn't money. It isn't about wealth. It isn't about success in resources. It's about ideology. Populism is basically this. I can't remember who said this. Was it Reagan or someone of them? I would rather be ruled by the first 12 people in the phone book than by the top 12 graduates of Yale University, or something like that, something to that effect. So, if you believe that the regular common man has it in him to rule, and the elites are trying to divide the country up for themselves and pressure the common man, chances are you might be more of a populist. Little Miss Mediator says you have to know the people you serve. You don't have to struggle to empathize and understand. I agree, Little Miss Mediator. And that's where I think Donald Trump killed it. And I think many people have only seen the negative press, the negative PR around him. So you don't understand why he killed it and why he got the second most votes of any US president ever, even in their last election when he lost, and why he may actually win again. A billionaire went on television and he ate a well-done steak and slobbered it in ketchup. You understand? He's a billionaire from New York. You think he doesn't know how rare steak is supposed to be eaten? You think he can't afford steak? He bought a well-done steak, put ketchup all over it, and that's what he ate on national TV. And the US press took him to tongue about it. They laughed at him, not understanding he's leaning into the idea the elites hate you. And listen, some of y'all, I don't understand what you're saying, Lotus. Careful if you're not making sense and you're trolling, the mute comes quick. And people need to understand that that appeal is an extremely strong one. That appeal to Tobago, was it 14-1? That appeal took Tobago. Militant Rockstar says populist and pandering politics never sustainable. I think pandering politics isn't sustainable. Correct. I disagree on the populism. I think some level of populism is necessary because I despise the idea of elitism. And the idea of elitism kills way more people than the ideas of populism. Populists don't generally kill out the people. It's the elitists that do it. It didn't work with Hillary when she pulled out a bottle of hot sauce to appeal to the Breakfast Club. It didn't work with Hillary because Hillary didn't build the character all around. You can't come after you are the pinnacle of elite in the American society. You are the very pinnacle. You go to all of the top events and everyone honors you, and then you randomly pull a hot sauce out of your bag. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Well, I wouldn't say populism never works. I think populism is necessary to some extent, but it's a balance. And if you have a populist who just tells the people what they want to hear, that's not going to work. People in Tobago are now saying something different. Are you sure they are saying something different? Are you sure about that? Are you sure that Tobago wants back the PNM as they were? I don't necessarily think so. And you see, if you compare it to what's the alternative, okay, you're saying you don't want the populism. Is your preference the elites run the thing? And you know, the thing that I usually find so offensive about people who support elites and the idea of elitism, and there are many people. I'm sorry to the PNM supporters in the chat, as I was saying previously when I said that about the said what I said about the UNC supporters. They mightn't like that, but this one the PNM supporters mightn't like. Something I really don't like about the PNM supporters. They give me that colonial mentality too strong. I somehow feel like they would have been there with their little British flags waving for the Queen on the runway. You get that feeling? Like they love the idea of being governed. Like, yes, govern me. Oh yes, I love when you govern me. You get that feeling. And the offensive part in that to me is they recognize how silly it is when the UNC gets in the governing position. All of a sudden they recognize, no, I don't want anyone to govern me anymore. No, people have power over me. People have, no, I don't want anyone. You now recognize that. But when it's your people, yes, take up all the power. Like, I remember having a discussion with the PNM guy last week, and he was telling me in no uncertain terms, he said these words. You could go back in my YouTube live and look back for that one. He said the reason the PNM got a brilliant idea to use the healthcare emergency for national security, the crime situation, because what that does Big up Ben. Because what, Benjamin, is it? Because what that does is it bypasses the UNC and the opposition, so they could make decisions without having to go through all of that. And I was like, are you listening to what you are saying? Are you listening? You are saying you want the PNM to be able to bypass our democratic system. And okay, I understand you have your PNM card, so you feel they will do it right. But bear in mind, if you make this precedent of bypassing the democratic norms through healthcare emergencies, when the PNM comes out of power, which they will, would you be okay with the UNC doing the same to get what they want done? Similarly, with the property tax. Okay, you believe the PNM will spend this property tax properly. Yes, the PNM are good people. They will give the money to local government and get the roads paved and the drains cleaned and the savannah cut, because the PNM are good people. Okay. Are these good people, PNM, going to rule the country forever and ever? And then, would you be okay with your $12, $13, $14, $15, $2,000 a year jumping up with the next group that comes into power? Would you be okay with that? Think about it. And many people, I notice many people seem like they don't. Many people seem like they don't. I just love voting out government once things does be nice. I am not necessarily of that view, and I'm not necessarily of the view that you have to vote them out and the next one will necessarily be better. I would tell you in no uncertain terms, and I make this decision on the day-to-day. I could tell you when I was in university back in 2010, that election between the People's Partnership and the Mr. Manning government, to me, it was obvious that the partnership wasn't the better option in those days. I'll say it in bold. Now things could be a little more dicey. But I don't think they are both necessarily the same thing. They aren't the same. You could make a decision, and I don't blame people for making their decisions. You could make a decision, but don't pretend like one is angel, one are angels, and one are the demons incarnate. That is why the government need to put laws in place. Bro, laws stop nothing. Laws stop nothing. Listen to... Let me tell you the secret. Let me tell you the secret. You all know in Trinidad... I'm gonna bring down the music. I had to bring down the music. You all know in Trinidad... I don't know if to tell you all this in such a public forum. As I saw someone speaking about laws. You all know in Trinidad, killing people is illegal. Murdering people is against the law. Positive radiation, you didn't know that? I think lots of people in Trinidad didn't know that murder was against the law. Because last year, 600 murders went on. $600 murders last year. So I think all those fellas who murdered people last year, they didn't know that murders against the law in Trinidad and Tobago. So, what we need to do is remind them it's against the law. And whenever we need to solve a problem, the government just need to write a law. So if we have a problem in Trinidad, get the government to write a law, problem solved. Problem solved. You see, that's the problem I always say, even returning again to what we started talking about with the guns. With guns and guns being illegal, guns could be how illegal you want. You have to actually be able to stop them. That's the end of it. Question, what's your thoughts on the death penalty? I have thoughts on the death penalty. There are several. First up, in the Trinidad and Tobago context, you have to catch people, convict them successfully in a short enough time in order to kill them. So I think in the Trinidad and Tobago context, the death penalty is several steps down the road. We can't hang anybody because we can't convict them in time. That's the main problem. So that's the first thing. Now, secondly, link Apple for your charger. Now, secondly, I think on just the principle side of it, I'm not sure it makes sense. Killing people for killing people because killing people is wrong sounds like a logical miss. I think that sounds like a logical miss. Yeah, here's the thing. Here's my issue. And this just sounds weird to me. It's not like you kill the person. Yes, Curve and Henry, I'd enjoy coming. It's not like you kill the person after, you're not like you kill the person while they're committing the act. It's not like you catch them and killing them somehow stops them from committing the act or stops them from doing something worse. You catch the person. They are no longer a threat to anyone because they are in jail. They are behind bars. And then we kill them. Like, bro, that does not sound right. That just doesn't sound right to me. I mean, if you get killed in the act, that's your business. But to catch someone, put them behind bars where they are not a danger to anyone and just kill them, it's a deterrent, I guess, for other persons. And okay, that's the other side, Rian. I don't think so. For one, statistically, they have done quite a bit of research on this. There has been no statistical link between the death penalty and decreasing decreasing murders, which would be what you're aiming at. There hasn't been a link statistically. Now, the statistics may be wrong, but statistically there hasn't been that link. And to me, I don't think death would be a deterrent to gang members. Listen. 600 men died last year. You think fellas in that life worried a great deal about death? Like, if you want me to tell you what I think they are most worried about, if you catch a gangster, the worst thing you could do to a gangster is make him work. Like, I say don't kill them fellas. Don't kill them. Yeah, I was there. Well, not there, but I was close by there. I remember that. Miss Opine over on Instagram I'm talking to. My ideal is take them and work them. Like, and it's kind of amazing to me, eh? How could you be okay with killing somebody and not enslaving them? Like, to me, if you're going to kill the murderers, we might as well make them slaves of the state. How is it better to kill someone? Which one murder? Which one worse, murder or slavery? In America, that works. Yes, I know that's what they do, Ben. Like, why kill this person? We already spent so much resources. Mommy food already grow this boy up to big and strong like this. Why are we're going to spend good money to kill this person? I don't think that makes sense. No. Bro, you're going to grow dasheen on concrete. That's what you're going to do. You are going to grow dasheen on concrete. No, we are not feeding you. You are feeding yourself. And to me, that's way better than killing them. And then that's on the deterrent side. Then a step further than that, I don't trust the state to kill people. Full stop. If you ask me, am I willing to give the entity that is the state the power to kill people when they think they are guilty? I would say no. I do not want them to get that power. Like, how many of you have interacted with our criminal justice system? Our minister, no audio over on IG. Let me see if I could pull that back up and get that. Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing me now? How about now over on IG there? How about now? Yeah. How many of you have interacted with our criminal justice system? Our Minister of National Security said that the criminals have friends inside of the judicial system. Our Minister of National Security said that. And I am going to give them the legal authority to kill people? Really? Really? And this is the issue, you know. This is the issue. So often, in looking for solutions, we create more problems. So often. El Salvador right now maybe has a solution. And I remember saying this at the end of a previous life. El Salvador maybe has a solution. They maybe have it. they maybe have found a solution. Their new president is taking and consolidating power in such a way he can actually make decisions and clean up the place. So they're cleaning up the place. Now, the real issue with that is 10 years down the road, when the president is now 50 years and he has finished cleaning up the place, is he going to relinquish power? Or is he just going to turn El Salvador into his personal, private country? Because that's what very often happens. So, okay, maybe the solution might be giving one person enough power to get things done. But then what? So regularly you hear people talking about they want the police to get more active. The police need to go out there and end them fellas. We want to feed them fellas in the prison no more. Okay, I understand the sentiment perfectly. But understand that if you do tell the police to do that, the high chance is that some innocent people might get picked up in there. And if you are saying, like some of us do say, that a large portion of our police are either corrupt or turn a blind eye to corruption, do you want corrupt people or people who turn a blind eye to corruption to be killing people outside there? Really? Really? Who used to say that the police won't kill people conveniently to allow for their criminal friends to succeed? So you find only one gang dying out. Like, I look at news, and bro, you notice some trends. You notice some strange trends. Like, there was a time when one particular gang leader, every time he goes to a police station, an attempt is made on his life. Like, 1 + 1 can't equal 2 every time, and it's a coincidence. Somebody is adding the next one there. And do we want them to necessarily get more power to kill people out there? You have to balance those things. You have to balance those things. That's already happening. I have no doubt it's already happening, GRY. That's why I'm asking, would you want to give them more power to be able to do that? I think not. All right, it's 11:24, people. One is one opine. Yep, one is one. It can't be anything else. It's 11:24. We had a nice session. Looking to dive out there. So if there are no further questions or comments, I'm going to be heading out, people. Anything else in the chat? If there is not, I hope you guys were educated, informed, or entertained. Police need separation of powers. They have too much as it is. Maybe. I don't think police have too much powers. I just think they need more accountability. They need people who could punish them better. The police need power to be able to do their job. They need it. Blessed night, Ben. Good night, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. That's all I have for now. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live session, which is going to be tomorrow evening. Tomorrow be Tuesday. See you guys then. Peace out. Later. Hold it down.